What's up guys, welcome back to another awesome one. Back again with me, Tramayne, your FX Chaser's mentor. And as today's title suggests guys, today we're going to be getting into isolating those high probability setups. Now before we kick things off and we get into the meat of the conversation, I do want to say guys, if it's your first time on the channel, definitely do subscribe because we're always coming out with value-added information, content that will make you a better trader every single week, and you don't want to miss something just as great as that. Now, otherwise, if you're a returner, we love having you on the channel. You guys know that you'll always receive the value that's been intended for you guys. Now guys, let's get started. Save your like until the end of the video after you've actually watched until the end and received the value. Now let's get into things guys. So we're speaking today about isolating our high probability setups. Now, why do we isolate these high probability setups? The first reason why we're isolating high probability setups is because we want to be able to trade, I guess, with those higher probabilities so that we can be able to add size. Now, it's one thing, for example, to take 10 trades. Let's just say we're taking 10 trades, and out of our 10 trades, we win 6 and we lose 4. Now, that's a winning system. Definitely a winning system. Now, that would be maybe the result of us taking every single setup within our system. Now, what we do by isolating our higher probability setups is that we then obviously play around with the numbers within our system. We then increase our win rate of the system by staying out of those lower probability, setups, and involving ourselves only in those higher probability setups. So now you'll find that now that we've maybe isolated just those high probability setups, we don't maybe even take 10 trades anymore. Now maybe you'll find out that we took 7 or 8, let's just say 8. We took 8 trades, and out of those 8, we won 6, still the same trades that we won, and we lost 2. So what does that do? That increases the win rate of our system. And then what that then does, because we have a higher win rate, we obviously expect to win maybe more often than not. And so we then are able to add size onto those setups. So for example, if we normally took that 1% risk on this trade, on our normal trades, now that we've isolated our high probability setups and we continually taking those high probability setups, now we can begin to add size after we understand the statistical reliability of our system. Now that we understand that our system has higher win rates, all of those nice good stuff, we then can add size. So instead of risking that 1% per position, now we're risking 1.5% per position. Now what that does is that obviously now we have the confluence, or we have those higher probability setups, so they're probably going to work more often than not. And then also in addition to that, we know that we now have added some size on those positions. So when those positions do work out in our favor, they'll give us a lot more returns than previously we got from those setups. So we'll go on to the second one, and the second most important reason why we actually isolate our high probability setups is to reduce the information input. If we're isolating these high probability setups, what we're doing indirectly is reducing the amount of information that we're receiving. So instead of looking at all of the setups that we are seeing on our different charts, what we then do is we just reduce and cut things out and only focus on the setups, I guess, that are going to give us the best probability. So we're reducing the amount of information that we need to deal with as traders, simplifying the process, making our job a lot easier. Now, the third point that we're going to go into is we increase our efficiency. Now, what that means is that we obviously know that as traders, if we're focusing, or if we're looking, if our focus is spread across a whole lot of different instruments and a whole lot of different setups, we can't be, in all honesty, we can't be as efficient as we need to be, because you'll find out that maybe your setups are developing on 3 out of the 8 pairs that you're looking at. And so how do you as a trader be able to split yourself into 3 and attend to each one of these high probability setups? Maybe you might be able to, maybe it might be difficult to approach them with the exact same enthusiasm, dedication, and clear mind each and every time. So what we do by isolating these setups is that we then increase our efficiency because we have less to look at, less to focus on. Now let's get into the fourth and final point on why in the first place we will isolate our setups, and that's to laser focus. That we just mentioned it indirectly in our previous one, is that if we are efficient, or rather, let's just say if we are inefficient, it means that obviously we're not working towards the best of our probabilities. And by laser focusing, just focusing our attention on a few setups increases our efficiency, because now we can guarantee that since we're not looking at 7 different pairs and we're only focusing on 2 pairs, we'll be more efficient in actually spotting those setups when they do develop. Now guys, let's get into what a lot of you guys have been wanting to get into. How do we isolate high probability setups? Now I'm gonna go through a few different case scenarios and a few different ways on how you can isolate these setups. Number one, and I feel like this goes back to how I used to trade myself. Before, when I used to look at all 28 pairs in Forex, what I used to do is over the weekend, I go through all 28 pairs. I obviously see, according to the setups that I take, which pairs are, I guess, closest to giving that optimal entry on this setup that I'm looking at. And out of these 28 pairs, what I would then do for myself is then I would minus, do whatever I needed to do to just end up with only 6 pairs. So what I wanted to do is analyze, make sure that I find out where those high probability setups are. And once I have those high probability setups, these 6 pairs that are giving me my high probability setups are the only pairs that I am looking at for that trading week. Why? Because I've already done my analysis and I've already isolated my high probability setups. Now, another approach that you could use is an approach that I am currently using now, where I only have 8 pairs that I'm looking at. So these 8 pairs are on my watch list. They'll always be on my watch list, or at least we'll see until, or if things change, who knows, we don't know. But anyway, I have 8 pairs on my watch list, and what I do from these 8 pairs is that I use the exact same process of elimination as I did when I look at, or when I had my 28 pairs. So what I do is, from these 8 pairs, I do my weekly analysis, understand where all of these pairs are, how far are they from my setup, and I know that as I'm going into the next week, maybe of these 8, only 3 are setting up the way that I need, or the way with the optimal trade setup that I'm actually looking to take. So what I then do is after I've looked at my pairs, analyzed my pairs, I have then isolated my high probability setups, and I know that over the course of next week, I'm only focusing on these 3 pairs for my trade setups. Now, one other thing that you can do to isolate your high probability setups, and this kind of, goes against, or rather, let's not say goes against, but it's a different approach as to analyzing pairs and then isolating the pairs that are giving you the best setups. Now, what this next approach is doing, and this is also an approach that I use as well. Now, I know a lot of people have a system or a method of approach where they trade multiple different looking setups. So for example, one individual might trade this as a setup. So looking at something like this, break and a retest, and that's their setup. So one individual maybe looks for these types of structures to trade, and then maybe another individual looks for something like, let's just say, like this. And then they're looking to trade this on the way to the downside. Now, these are 2 completely different setups that one individual might have within their trading plan. Now, what we're going to do here, we're still going to isolate our high probability setups. But how we're going to do that is by isolating. For example, let's just say we are the type of individual that only looks at one Forex pair. Now, within this one Forex pair, we still need to be able to isolate high probability setups. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to, obviously using our backtest results and all of those other things, we'll find out that one of these setups maybe, or let's just say they give us the exact same win rate of maybe 6 out of 10. So they both give us a 6 out of 10 win rate. Now, obviously, to isolate these setups, now we can use other information or other things. Maybe we'll find out that this kind of a setup here gives us a better risk to reward. Maybe more when we take these setups, we get more 1:4, 1:5. So we'll say that on average, maybe we get 1:5 risk to reward ratio on this ascending structure. And maybe on this double top structure, we only on average get. And like I was saying, guys, apologies for that. But like I was saying, you're going to obviously need to include your backtest results to come up with stuff like this. But let's just say hypothetically, for example, on average, maybe this double top structure gives you an average risk to reward ratio, or let's start off with win rate. So we'll say that both of these setups have the exact same win rate because, man, I trade them and I'm trading them the exact same way. So let's just say both of these setups win an average of 6 out of 10 trades. So we have a win rate of 6 out of every 10. So obviously the win rate stays the same regardless of which setup we're trading. So even if we had to isolate a high probability setup, regardless of which one we chose, we would still get the same win rate. Now we go through with our backtesting results. This is how we'll get that added information that will allow us to isolate our high probability setup. Now let's just say, for example, maybe our double top structure gives us an average risk to reward ratio of 1:3. Now, proper good risk to reward ratio. Now, let's just say, for example, maybe just because of the nature of this structure and where we'll be looking for targets and all of those things, maybe our ascending structure gives us an average risk to reward ratio of, let's just say, 1:5. So with the exact same win rate, but slightly different risk to reward ratios, guys, now what we can do, isolate our high probability setup. And now instead of taking both of these setups, what we can do is we stop taking, for example, our double top setups because they give us a smaller risk to reward ratio. And now we've isolated our high probability setup based off the normal setups that we trade, our normal trading style. And now that we've done that, we have a setup that gives us a win rate of 6 out of every 10. We also have a setup that gives us an average risk to reward ratio of 1:5. So we know that every 6 of these 10 trades that we probably win, maybe at least 3 of those 6 are going to be at a risk to reward ratio of 1:5. Who knows? But what we've done is that we've given ourselves better odds. Obviously, we have a good win rate. We have an amazing, absolutely phenomenal risk to reward ratio. And this is what we've done to isolate our high probability setup. We've taken the different setups that we trade and we've identified the one that can give us or produce the most, I guess, efficient and let's just say that can produce results that we're looking for. Remember, we want to maximize on wins and we want to cut losses short. And to have a system that will give us this kind of a risk to reward ratio on average is us maximizing on our winning potentials. So we've isolated our high probability setups and we've taken into account the criteria and the situations and the circumstances that will give us the better trading opportunity. Now guys, we have reached the end of this video. If you have received the value that was intended for you in this video, definitely do give this video a thumbs up. Otherwise, like we said in the beginning, if you're not subscribed, do subscribe to the channel. This is Tramayne, your FX Chasers mentor. I will see you guys in the future videos. Have a good week, guys. Cheers.